Hey, how's it going? And today I just wanted to do an update to a video I just did not too long ago on filming in Fortnite. And this is involving the third person control. This control allows us to control two new types of cameras. And these cameras now give us nearly total control for filming in Fortnite. So before, filming in Fortnite was really challenging and very difficult, and it still is, but it is so much improved now that I really think Epic Games is serious about turning Fortnite Creative into a storytelling tool. I'll give you an example of what we're talking about. So if I were to film in Fortnite before from the player character camera, this is the best shot I could get. I couldn't get the front of the character. The only way I could get the front of the character is if I put a cine camera into the scene and really kind of finagled things. That's not true anymore. So this is a huge improvement. It's hard to overstate how big of an improvement this is. It's also hard to keep up with Epic Games. It's almost like trying to keep up with a team of mad scientists, because as soon as you get one thing figured out, something else has come on and has changed. So it's a moving target. Anyway, if you go into Fortnite devices and you click in here to early access, here's our three new devices. They're kind of interdependent because this controlled third person device is only good with these two other devices. So for these two cameras to work, you need the control third person in the scene. So just drag that in the scene, and then if we drag a fixed angle camera or the camera fixed point camera in, we will see from these cameras' perspective. So there's a couple key controls I'll talk about here. Now, there's two new kinds of cameras. There's a fixed angle one, and you can think of this as the player character camera now that you have control over, where you can reposition it in front of the character and in the scene. This is the player character camera. This camera fixed point, I don't know why they just don't call it a fixed point camera, is almost the same as the cine camera here. The only difference, the main difference is if we wanted to animate this camera or target something, we would have to do it through the sequencer. But now with this camera fixed point, we can set it actually to target the player character. So this camera, these two cameras, between these two cameras, this is essentially a stationary camera that we could try to animate through the sequencer, but we had no way of automatically tracking the action or the character. Now with this camera we can. So obviously this is the camera that we'd want to use if we wanted to track player action from a distance. I don't even know what the point of this camera would be anymore, to be honest with you. Unless you just wanted a stationary locked shot, but you could get that with this. So it seems like this camera might be on the way out unless they add this functionality to this camera. But that's the difference between these two. This allows you to track the player character's actions. So that's a huge improvement. That's the same functionality that they have in Unreal Engine though. So they've just basically brought Unreal Engine functionality into Fortnite Creative, which makes me think that Epic Games is serious about turning Fortnite Creative into a storytelling tool. But the main camera that I think is of even greater interest is this fixed angle camera. And if this is essentially the player character camera, notice how it's not shooting off into the distance, it's shooting down here, meaning that this camera tracks the player character. So whereas before we had no control over that camera, over the player character camera. It was just locked behind the player character. With this camera, we can reposition it so that we can get all different kinds of shots. Like right now, this would get a high angle shot on the character. But let's say we don't want a high angle shot. We want, let's say, to see the character's face as they're running down the road. Well, what we do is over here on the camera, on the details panel, where it says angle pitch, if we just change that to 0, you see now the camera's going to be at eye level with the character. But you notice it's kind of far away, so we could also change the distance to, I don't know, maybe 200 or something like that. And now the camera has come in a lot closer. See that? If I push these changes, you'll see the difference now. Okay, so it's launched, it started again. So now if we come in and I hit start, and I go into game and I go running, I can get this angle now. I couldn't have got this angle before, it would have been impossible. So that's why I say, and I can still shoot from behind, but now I can get this angle. So what it essentially does, the fixed angle camera, is give me control over the camera now. Whereas before it was just locked behind the character in a kind of a following shot. Now I can position the camera in any position. So let's say I wanted to get a shot. Let me jump out of this for a second. Let's say now I wanted to get a shot of the player character, like tracking him running down the street, and then we got to this intersection here, and I wanted to switch the angle to, let's say, a fixed point camera, which you can again think of it as a tracking camera essentially for the player character. What I would do is I would put a trigger in the road here, and as soon as I hit that trigger, I would, let's see, go back to this fixed angle camera here. What I would do is I would turn that camera off, disable it, and then switch to that other camera, enable this camera, enable it. There's also, if you have two cameras in the scene, how you determine which one has, there's a setting here called priority. So if this is set to 0 and the other camera is set to 0, I don't believe either camera has priority, but I think well, we could test it. So that's a good question. And I don't know, there's a lot to test with this. So we've got two cameras in the scene right now, let's say. We've got a fixed angle camera and a fixed point camera. The fixed angle has 0 priority. This has 0 priority. So the question is, if I push those changes, which camera is going to have priority of filming? Probably, I would say the fixed angle camera. But if we wanted the fixed point to have priority, we would just give it a 1, a higher value, and then this camera would have functionality. And then I could also turn this off if I didn't want it to have priority. So there's a lot to kind of cover with these. Here's the look at target. So what you do is you would, once you enable this, then it knows to track your player character. So anyway, there's a lot to go over in this, and I'll come back with other tutorials later, but I just wanted to give you a quick introduction to these awesome new cameras in Unreal Editor for Fortnite. Okay, I just wanted to do a quick follow-up before this ending the video. In the scene, I brought in the fixed angle camera, I brought in the fixed point camera, and the control third person. And if we hit play, the question was, with the fixed angle is at a 0 priority and the fixed point's at 0, which camera would have priority? I said I thought it would be the fixed angle. I was wrong. It's the fixed point. And I go start game. You'll see how the camera is locked down. See? What's interesting now with the fixed camera, my character just literally runs in squares now, which makes it very easy to find where they are. Rather than they used to be able to just go in any direction, now they pretty much lock on a square pattern, which is a lot more predictable control. So I just want to show you a couple other settings here. If I come back in here, so if we click on this fixed point camera, you'll see the priority is 0, the fixed angle is 0. But if I switch this to 1, let me end the game. If I switch the fixed angle to 1, then it will take priority. So now if I come in here and we go start, and it's going to be kind of a high angle shot, so watch. So now see, the fixed angle has priority because I made it a higher number. Let me show you one more thing. There's a lot to take in with these cameras, but the bottom line is, we have nearly total control over the cameras now, whereas before we didn't. So this is definitely a step in the right direction. The other thing I wanted to show you was, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this fixed angle camera. And on the fixed point camera, on its settings, we're going to go ahead and say look at target. And now, if I go back to start game, okay, with those changes pushed now and I put on the target, and I hit play, now the camera should track my player's movements. See how I'm running this way and how the camera's tracking me? Before it was just locked in position. So you can see the range of functionality we have now is just pretty unbelievable. It's incredible, to be honest with you. It's just incredible. And it's so weird because I just did tutorials about how limited the cameras were, but now they're not limited at all. Well, they have so much range now. It's crazy. So anyway, take care, have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.